Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And in this video, I have additional info and updates for you guys on the network as Neville earlier presented at the New Street conference. So during that conference, actually, we got the announcement or the press release from T-Mobile that they have now lit up standalone ultra capacity on the 5G standalone core nationwide. So we got that actually during the conference. So just a few things from the conference from Neville himself. So 2022, this year, has been the highest site modernization in the company's history. So meaning most of the towers, or the largest amount of towers within a single year, got the most ever in company's history got modernized. So there should be a volume of sites, a large volume at scale, that have the most modern equipment, panels, radios, BBU equipment. It should be the most modern that T-Mobile has deployed. And that goes right in line with the amount that they're investing, right? They're going to finish out the year at $13.9 billion at the high end. That's the most that the company has ever spent in a single year. So, of course, it makes sense that they would have the most work accomplished. So this is nothing really groundbreaking. It just goes in line with what they're spending. So very interesting. It's finally been admitted by Neville. So I've seen it. If you guys remember on the trip to San Antonio, I saw the AT&T roaming. And then I started seeing more roaming areas pop up on the coverage map. And it does look like, according to Neville, they do have a new AT&T roaming agreement in place. He said, according to him, he says it's due to AT&T now having the largest coverage footprint in rural United States due to FirstNet. That is what he said. So he did say on the coverage portion of that section that he was asked about coverage. He did say that his network is now closer to closing the gap to Verizon than it is to AT&T. So again, that's just him saying that. I don't know how truthful that is. If you guys remember just a couple of months back when Mike Sievert presented, he said that Verizon had the largest coverage and that they were closer to catching AT&T. So I don't know what changed. Maybe there was a very explosive growth quarter for AT&T and FirstNet on coverage. I have been tracking that. You guys have been seeing those videos. They have been very aggressively expanding the network due to the government reimbursement. So the government is pretty much funding the whole thing, and they are expanding that network very, very, very quickly. So that was one of the segments that he was discussing coverage that I wanted to update you guys on. He did say customer-focused driven coverage. He didn't mention that, so that's very interesting. We will see how close they get at the end of 2023. I am still hearing that next year is a huge expansion year for the company, although they did expand over the last 2.5 years. He did mention that as well. Some of those Sprint Keep sites, those were T-Mobile coverage expansion sites. So T-Mobile was able to expand its own native coverage using the Sprint Keep sites. So he did mention that, but I do anticipate still 2023 is going to be the largest brand new geographic coverage expansion for T-Mobile in 2023. So very interesting. Also in that press release, I don't know if you guys caught it at the very bottom, they now cover 1.9 million square miles with the low band 5G versus 1.8 million. So they are growing the geographic footprint of the network. So I wanted to throw that in as well. And then the third and final part that he also discussed that I wanted to bring up, other than that, everything else was fairly the same that we've already heard or that we already know. So he was talking about millimeter wave. He was asked about fixed wireless access. He was also asked about the new venture on fiber. Of course, he couldn't really speak on that because that's very, very new information and not finalized yet. But he did speak on the millimeter wave. And it goes right in line with what I've been told and what I've been telling you guys on the channel. They're not excited about millimeter wave. right? They're not going to deploy it at the street level like Verizon. They're not going to put it on a ton of millimeter wave small cells. They're not going to do that. He disclosed that once again today, right? Everybody's been saying, recently the bigger success, are they going to be more focused on millimeter wave? And he pretty much today, again, turned that down. But what he did say when they are ready to make a commitment to millimeter wave, it will be for fixed wireless access. And when they do have that commitment, he did say it will be focused on the macro grid. He will overlay the macro grid with millimeter wave where it makes sense. So he did say that. So with him saying that and me knowing what I know, it's a point to point. So he's using the macro grid for fixed wireless access point to point. So recently there's been new developments from Ericsson and Samsung that millimeter wave has been expanding its range quite severely, to be honest. And on a point-to-point basis from a macro, depending on where you're located in line of sight, of course, if there's a high gain CPE unit, a more premium one, in your location by the window, it may be able to pick up the millimeter wave overlay from a macro from further away, let's say 2 to 3 miles, for example. That's what your cellular's doing, and I'm sure a couple of other companies will do that as well. So that could happen, and they're working on that right now. They're in the lab testing, but very, 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 very little. This is not a big priority for them. They're looking at it. They're somewhat focused on it, but not in a big way. So just keep that in mind as you think about the millimeter wave story for T-Mobile. So that's pretty much it. Those are the 3 key points that I wanted to cover. 2022, highest modernization year for the company in terms of the macro grid. New AT&T roaming agreement due to them having the largest rural coverage with FirstNet, according to him. And then the millimeter wave story in terms of an overlay, it will happen on the macro grid. He said he is not going to deploy at the street level like Verizon. So just wanted to fill you guys in on that to end out the day. So make sure you guys stay tuned to the channel, like, share, subscribe, follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.